Well, and two, the treatment hours, there seems to be a really big discrepancy between how many hours or even minutes of therapy that one would get for speech therapy versus ABA. At least in my limited understanding, right? The children that we would work with, right? They would get maybe 30 minutes a week. Sometimes we had some kiddos that would get 30 minutes a month of speech. And we were begging the parents to we wanted to collaborate with the speech. And they're like, I'm sorry, it's not possible. They only have 30 minutes a month or, I don't know. What is the science behind that? And what's the discrepancy between the amount of hours? I know the speech is a more, concentrated area, but there's so much that's involved in speech too, right?
I think it has a lot to do with the funding source. If you think, okay, there's a student and maybe they get 4 hours a month of a BCBA, but then they get 40 hours a week of RBT, the funding structure is very different. So that's a big part of it. And there's a huge part of the field of speech therapy that actually I just checked my LinkedIn messages, and it was a speech therapist, and she said that their team really feels like ABA is encroaching on the field, which that's a whole, there's Facebook groups dedicated to that, and courses at conferences, unfortunately. And I just say, it's hard. There's enough out there. There's enough students who need our support that we don't have to fight about those hours. We really just don't. What I do think is unfortunate is that sometimes parents from a financial standpoint or just their bandwidth will say oh, well, we're going to get 20 hours of ABA, but only 1 hour of speech. Well, we can't afford both. So we're going to do the 20 hours of ABA. As a business owner, I can see where that would leave a bad taste in your mouth about the field. But I really think if you're a speech therapist and you are somebody who can collaborate with BCBAs and go in maybe to ABA centers and do speech therapy, it will be great for you, for your clients, and for your business as well. So that is really tough. And what I try to tell speech therapists, Lori Unum, I had her on the podcast. She's just a dynamo in the field. She's heading up CASP now, but I had her on during season 1, and her and her husband really helped. And I know she worked at Autism Speaks, I believe, is how I remember the story. And she visited every single state to help with insurance reform. And she was part of a parent panel. I went to CASP for the first time and presented a couple months ago. And it was because I've never knew her story. When I had her on the podcast, we didn't talk about her being a mom to 3 kids that are autistic, but hearing her parent journey was just very poignant and okay, she is very, very passionate about making the science accessible. And I think speech therapists, they obviously don't know, some BCBAs may not know how insurance reform helped and things like that to make ABA accessible. They just know that all of a sudden now there are a lot of ABA centers popping up in their community. And so that can be jarring for people too. They don't understand the backstory of everything.
Well, I'm really excited too that this summer you have a book coming out. Say it with me.
Thank you. I'm very excited about that. Yes, it comes out July 1st, and I never thought that I would write a book, but Wiley contacted me about a year ago, and I was hyperventilating. It was in December, and I was like, worst month to ever contact me about any kind of new project. So I had a freak out. I talked to a lot of my friends who are authors and decided I was going to do it. So it has been a journey. I'm learning all about it. I do think it will be wonderful to have a permanent product of my life's work. And really, this is the book that I needed over 20 years ago, the first time I worked at the Cleveland Clinic, and I was working with students who were not engaging in therapy and students who, despite being in special education services, did not have a way to communicate with the world. And I did not have a guidebook. So over the past 20 years, I have been putting that together. And so it felt really good to put it all out. And it's been so fun to, we have this, if you pre-order, I don't know when this podcast will air, but you get all these different bonus items. And it's been cool because you have to email me to get the bonus items. So it's been neat to see all the different people that have been ordering the book. And I'm just excited because it is based on research, and I talk about research a lot, but it is a guidebook on, if your student is not yet speaking, how do we get started in therapy to really help every single student find a way to communicate with the world.